Hey there, folks. Welcome back to another spine-chilling tale on the channel. If you're ready for a story that'll keep you up all night, you're in the right place. Tonight, we're diving into the eerie mystery of Hollow Creek, a forgotten town in Missouri where shadows don't just lurk, they hunt. Grab a coffee, dim the lights, and let's get started. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a creepy story. Now, let's meet Jake Carter, a guy who's about to learn that some jobs come with a price no one can pay. The gravel crunched under Jake Carter's tires as he pulled his beat-up Ford pickup into Hollow Creek, Missouri, just as the sun dipped below the horizon. The air was thick with September fog, curling around the skeletal remains of a town that hadn't seen life in decades. Rusted signs creaked in the breeze, and the faded "Welcome to Hollow Creek" billboard loomed over the road like a warning. Jake's dashboard clock read 8:47 p.m., and the knot in his stomach tightened. He wasn't one for ghost stories, but something about this place felt wrong. Jake was 30, a former Marine with a buzz cut and a limp from a bad mission in Afghanistan. After the service, he bounced around factory jobs in Kansas City, but the layoffs hit hard and his mom's medical bills were piling up faster than he could handle. So when he saw a Craigslist ad for a night watchman gig in Hollow Creek, good pay, no experience needed, he didn't think twice. Patrol an abandoned town. Keep thieves away from old machinery. The ad said. Sounded simple enough. Now, staring at the empty streets lined with crumbling houses, he wasn't so sure. He pulled up to a weathered trailer at the edge of town. The only sign of life in this ghost town. A flickering bulb buzzed above the door, casting jagged shadows across the dirt lot. Jake grabbed his duffel bag, stuffed with a thermos, a flashlight, and a pack of Marlboros, and stepped out. The air smelled of damp wood and something metallic, like rust or blood. He shook it off, chalking it up to nerves. Inside the trailer, Tom Grayson was waiting. The guy looked like he'd been carved from the Ozark Hills, gray beard, leathery skin, and eyes that didn't blink enough. He wore a flannel shirt and a ball cap that said Grayson Properties, the company that owned what was left of Hollow Creek. "You Jake Carter?" Tom asked, voice rough as gravel. Jake nodded, and Tom sized him up like he was measuring him for a coffin. "Good. You're early. Shows you're serious." Tom slid a clipboard across a cluttered desk piled with maps and coffee-stained papers. "Job's simple. You patrol the town from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. Check the old church, the residential block, and the mine entrance. Make sure no one's stealing what's left, machine parts, copper wiring. That kind of thing. Report anything strange on the walkie-talkie. Pays weekly cash." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Strange? Like what?" Tom's jaw tightened. "Kids messing around, vagrants, thieves. Been some break-ins lately. That's why we need you." He hesitated, then pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket. "One more thing. These are the rules. Follow 'em exactly, no exceptions." Jake unfolded the paper. 7 rules, handwritten in blocky letters like something a kid would scribble in a hurry. They didn't make sense for a security gig. Don't look into windows. If you see a figure outside a window, don't look at it, especially not through glass. Stick to the route. Only patrol the path on the map. Don't go into alleys or houses, no matter what you hear. Don't answer calls. If someone calls your name, even if it sounds like someone you know, don't respond or look for them. Keep your flashlight on. Never let it go out for more than 10 seconds, even to change batteries. Don't enter the mine after 2 a.m. The mine entrance is locked. Don't open it no matter what you see or hear. Avoid mirrors and standing water. Don't look into mirrors or puddles at night. Leave before 5 a.m. Be back at the trailer by 5, lock the door, and don't look back no matter what you hear. Jake snorted. "What is this? A ghost tour? You expect me to believe this stuff?" Tom's eyes narrowed. "Believe what you want, kid. Just follow the rules. People who don't, they don't last." He handed Jake a flashlight, a walkie-talkie, and a map of Hollow Creek marked with a red patrol route. "Start tonight. I'll check on you at 5. Jake wanted to ask more, but Tom's tone said the conversation was over. He glanced around the trailer, noticing a dusty photo on the wall, a group of miners, faces grim, standing outside a tunnel entrance labeled Hollow Creek Coal Mine, 1978. Above the desk, a small wooden cross hung on a nail, swaying slightly, though there was no breeze. The hairs on Jake's neck prickled. "Anything else I should know?" Jake asked, pocketing the rules. Tom lit a cigarette, the flame briefly lighting his face. Don't trust the dark out there. This town's got a history. People talk about shadows, voices, things that ain't human. Most of it's nonsense, but... He trailed off, exhaling smoke. Just stick to the rules. Jake nodded, though his gut told him this wasn't just about thieves. He stepped outside to grab his gear from the truck, and that's when he heard it. A sharp crack, like a branch snapping in the woods behind the trailer. He spun around, scanning the tree line. Nothing but fog and darkness. Probably a deer, he muttered, but his hand lingered on the knife clipped to his belt. Back inside, Tom walked him through the patrol route on the map. Start at the church on Main Street, loop through the houses on Elm, then check the mine entrance off Route 12. Takes about 2 hours. Do it twice a night. Stay on the path and don't dawdle. He pointed to the walkie-talkie. Channel set. Call if you see anything off. Jake spent the next hour settling in, sipping coffee from his thermos and studying the map. The trailer felt like a bunker, with its flickering lights and musty smell. He tried to shake the unease, telling himself it was just a job. Walk around, scare off kids, get paid. But as 10 o'clock approached, the silence outside grew heavier, broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl. At 9:55, Jake clipped the walkie-talkie to his belt, checked his flashlight, and headed out. The fog had thickened, swallowing the stars. His boots crunched on the gravel as he started down Main Street toward the church, its steeple barely visible in the mist. The rules sat heavy in his pocket, and though he didn't believe in ghosts, he couldn't shake Tom's warning: people who don't follow the rules don't last. Halfway to the church, he heard it again, a snap, closer this time, from the alley to his left. He swung his flashlight, the beam cutting through the fog. Nothing. His pulse quickened, but he remembered Rule 2. Don't go into alleys. Get a grip, Jake, he whispered, forcing himself to keep walking. The church came into view, its windows shattered, the door boarded up. As he passed, something flickered in his peripheral vision, a shadow moving behind one of the broken windows. His instinct was to shine the light, but Rule 1 stopped him cold: don't look into windows. He tightened his grip on the flashlight and kept moving, the shadow lingering in his mind like a bad dream. This was going to be a long night. Jake Carter's boots echoed on the cracked pavement of Main Street, the only sound in the suffocating silence of Hollow Creek. The fog clung to the ground like a living thing, swirling around the abandoned church as he moved past it, flashlight beams slicing through the mist. It was just after 10 p.m., his first official patrol as the night watchman. And already his nerves were frayed. That shadow he'd glimpsed in the church window lingered in his mind, a nagging itch he couldn't scratch. He told himself it was nothing, kids, maybe. Or his imagination playing tricks. But the weight of Tom Grayson's rules in his pocket said otherwise. He pulled out the crumpled paper, glancing at the 7 handwritten rules under the glow of his flashlight. Don't look into windows. Stick to the route. Don't answer calls. They sounded like something his grandma would have whispered to scare him as a kid. Not instructions for a security gig. But Tom's warning echoed in his head. People who don't follow the rules don't last. Jake wasn't superstitious, but he'd seen enough in Afghanistan to know some things defied explanation. He stuffed the paperback in his jacket, resolving to play by the book, at least for tonight. The patrol route took him from the church to Elm Street, a stretch of sagging houses that looked like they'd been frozen in time. Porches caved in, windows boarded or shattered, and overgrown weeds choked the sidewalks. Jake's flashlight swept over the facades, careful not to linger on the dark glass panes. Rule 1 was clear. Don't look into windows, especially through glass. He didn't know why, but the memory of that shadow in the church kept his beam low. Halfway down Elm, he froze. A faint scrape came from behind him, like boots dragging on pavement. He spun, flashlight cutting through the fog. Nothing but empty street and the hulking shapes of houses. His heart thudded, but he remembered Rule 3. If someone calls your name, don't respond or look for them. This wasn't a call, but it felt close enough. Just the wind, he muttered, though the air was still as death. He forced himself to keep walking, gripping the flashlight tighter. The walkie-talkie on his belt crackled, making him jump. Carter, you at Elm yet? Tom's voice was gruff, distorted by static. Yeah, just got here, Jake replied, thumbing the button. All quiet so far. Keep it that way. Stick to the route and check in at the mine entrance. Out. The walkie went silent, and Jake felt oddly alone again. Tom's voice should have been reassuring, but it only made the emptiness of Hollow Creek feel heavier. As he neared the end of Elm, the houses gave way to a dirt path leading to the old coal mine, the final stop on his route. The mine entrance was a black maw in the hillside, sealed with a rusted gate and barbed wire. A faded sign read Hollow Creek Coal Company, closed 1980. Jake's map marked it as a quick check, make sure the gate was locked, no signs of tampering, then loop back to the church. Simple. But standing there, staring into the darkness beyond the gate, he felt exposed, like something was staring back. That's when he heard it, a low, rhythmic tap-tap-tap, like fingers drumming on wood. It came from a house across the street, one with a single unbroken window reflecting the moonlight. Jake's flashlight instinctively swung toward it, but he caught himself just in time, jerking the beam down. Rule 1. His pulse raced. Was that a figure in the window, or just the fog playing tricks? He couldn't tell, and he wasn't about to find out. He turned away, focusing on the mine gate, and checked the padlock. Secure. No signs of trouble. The tapping stopped, replaced by a new sound. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, crunching on the gravel behind him. Jake's mouth went dry. He kept his eyes on the gate, remembering Rule 3. Don't look for them. The footsteps grew closer, maybe 20 feet away, then stopped. Silence. His hand hovered over the knife on his belt, but he forced himself to move, starting the loop back toward Elm. Whatever was out there, he wasn't giving it the satisfaction of a reaction. Back on Elm Street, the houses seemed to lean in, their shadows stretching unnaturally long. Jake's flashlight flickered, the beam dimming for a split second before steadying. He cursed under his breath, checking the batteries. They were fresh, but Rule 4 was burned into his brain. Never let the flashlight go out for more than 10 seconds. He tapped it against his palm. And the light held. Come on, don't quit on me, he whispered, half to the flashlight, half to himself. At the corner of Elm and Main, he paused to catch his breath. The church loomed ahead, its broken steeple clawing at the sky. That's when he heard his name. Jake. A woman's voice, soft and familiar, like his mom's. It came from the alley to his right, a narrow gap between two houses. His heart skipped. Mom was in a hospital bed in Kansas City. No way she was here. Rule 3. He clenched his jaw, kept his eyes forward, and started walking faster. Jake, please. The voice called again, now with a desperate edge. It was so real, so her, that his stomach twisted. But he didn't look. He couldn't. The voice faded as he reached the church, but the air felt colder, heavier. He checked his watch. 12:15 a.m. halfway through the first loop. He radioed Tom. Finished the first round. Heading back to Elm. Everything's fine. His voice wavered and he hoped Tom didn't notice. Copy that, Tom replied. Stay sharp. It gets weirder after midnight. The walkie cut off, leaving Jake with the sinking feeling that weirder was an understatement. The second loop was worse. The fog thickened, swallowing the edges of the street. The tapping returned. Now from multiple houses, like a chorus of unseen hands. Jake kept his flashlight moving, avoiding windows, but the beam caught something that made his blood run cold. A puddle of standing water in the middle of Elm Street, reflecting the moonlight. In it, he saw the outline of a figure standing behind him, tall and thin, with no face. Rule 6. Don't look into puddles. He stumbled back, kicking dirt over the water to break the reflection. The air seemed to hum, a low vibration that made his teeth ache. He radioed Tom again, his voice tight. Tom, you ever see shadows out here? Like people who aren't there? Static crackled for a long moment before Tom answered. Stick to the rules, Carter. Don't go looking for trouble. Check the mine again, then head back. The dismissal stung, but Jake didn't push it. He finished the loop, checking the mine gate, still locked, and hurried back to the trailer, his flashlight beam shaking in his hand. It was 4:55 a.m. when he reached the trailer. He fumbled with the keys. Rule 7 screaming in his mind, be back by 5, lock the door, don't look back. As he stepped inside, a faint knock came from the trailer's rear window. Tap, tap, tap. His hand froze on the lock. Every instinct told him to check, but he forced himself to turn the key, sealing the door shut. The knocking stopped, but he swore he heard a whisper through the wall. Jake! Tom arrived at 5:10, his truck rattling into the lot. He stepped inside, eyeing Jake like he was searching for cracks. You look spooked. See something? Jake hesitated, then shook his head. Just a long night. Everything's secure. He wasn't ready to admit what he'd heard, not yet. Tom nodded almost approvingly. Good. First night's always the test. Get some rest. You're back tonight. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Carter? Don't skip the rules. Not even once. Jake drove out of Hollow Creek as the sun rose, the fog burning away. But the weight of that night clung to him, heavy as the rules in his pocket. He didn't know what was out there, but one thing was clear: Hollow Creek wasn't just abandoned. It was waiting. Jake Carter couldn't shake the chill from his first night in Hollow Creek. All day, he'd holed up in a cheap motel 20 miles away, trying to sleep. But the memory of that faceless figure in the puddle and his mom's voice calling from the dark kept him staring at the ceiling. The rules, scribbled on that crumpled paper, sat on the nightstand like a bad omen. He'd followed them, mostly, and made it through, but the way Tom Grayson had looked at him, like he was already half gone, gnawed at his gut. By 8 p.m., Jake was back in his truck, driving through the Missouri hills toward Hollow Creek, telling himself it was just a job. Just one more night. The fog was thinner tonight, but the town felt no less oppressive. Hollow Creek's empty streets glowed faintly under a half-moon, casting long shadows from the church steeple and the skeletal houses on Elm Street. Jake pulled into the trailer lot, his headlights catching the rusted "Welcome to Hollow Creek" sign. The air smelled of wet earth and something sour, like rotting leaves. He grabbed his duffel, flashlight, extra batteries, thermos, knife, and headed inside, steeling himself for another 5 hours of hell. Tom was already there, hunched over a map, a cigarette burning in an ashtray. You're back, he said, not looking up. Thought you might bail after last night. Jake set his bag down, forcing a smirk. Takes more than shadows to scare me off. Anything new I need to know? Tom's eyes flicked up, sharp and unreadable. Same route, same rules. Don't get cocky just 'cause you survived one night. He slid the walkie-talkie across the desk. Check in every hour. And Carter, don't go poking around where you shouldn't. Jake nodded, but Tom's warning stirred something in him. The man knew more than he was letting on, and Jake was tired of being in the dark. He waited until Tom stepped outside to make a call, then scanned the trailer. The desk was a mess. Old receipts, a rusted key, a photo of miners from the 70s, but a small notebook caught his eye, tucked under a stack of maps. He flipped it open. The pages were yellowed, filled with names and dates like a logbook. Sam Riley, 2018, terminated. Lucy Hayes, 2015, missing. Dozens of names, all crossed out with notes like, didn't follow rules or never returned. Jake's stomach dropped. Was this a list of watchmen? And what the hell happened to them? He stuffed the notebook back as Tom returned, pretending to check his flashlight. At 10 p.m., Jake hit the streets, the rules heavy in his pocket. The church was his first stop, its broken windows glinting like eyes in the moonlight. He kept his beam low, avoiding the glass, but the memory of last night's tapping made his skin crawl. The air felt charged, like a storm was brewing, though the sky was clear. Elm Street was next, the houses silent except for the occasional creak of rotting wood. Jake's flashlight swept the path, steady and bright, but his mind was on that notebook. Missing. Terminated. He shook it off, focusing on the route. Halfway down Elm, a new sound stopped him cold, a low, guttural hum, like a machine buried deep underground. It came from the direction of the mine, a quarter-mile away. Rule 5, don't enter the mine after 2 a.m. It wasn't even 11 yet, but the hum felt alive, vibrating in his bones. He radioed Tom. You hear that noise? Like a hum near the mine. Static hissed before Tom's voice crackled through. Ignore it. Stay on the route. Check in at the mine gate, then loop back. The dismissal was curt and Jake's jaw tightened. He wasn't imagining this. The hum faded as he continued, but the unease didn't. At the end of Elm, he reached a small cul-de-sac with a boarded-up house, its front yard littered with debris. A glint caught his eye, a puddle of rainwater, perfectly still, reflecting the moon. He stepped toward it, then froze. Rule 6. Avoid mirrors and standing water. But it was too late. In the puddle, he saw himself. Same jacket, same flashlight. But behind him stood a figure, tall and thin, with no face. Just a blank void where eyes should be. Jake's breath caught. He kicked the puddle, scattering the water, and the reflection vanished. His heart hammered. Get it together, he growled, backing away. The mine entrance was next, its rusted gate looming in the darkness. The hum was gone, replaced by a faint drip-drip from somewhere inside the tunnel. Jake checked the padlock, still secure, but as he turned to leave, a voice whispered his name. Jake. It was his mom again, soft and pleading, coming from the mine. Rule 3, don't answer calls. He clenched his fists, forcing himself to walk away, but the voice grew louder, sharper. Jake, help me. It was so real, so desperate, that tears stung his eyes. He pictured her in that hospital bed. Alone. Before he could stop himself, he shouted, Mom, I'm here. Silence crashed down like a guillotine. The air turned ice cold and Jake realized his mistake. He broken Rule 3. His flashlight flickered, the beam dimming, then surging back. Rule 4. He tapped it, panic rising, and started back toward Elm, his boots pounding the gravel. The shadows seemed to shift, stretching toward him like fingers. He didn't dare look back. Back on Elm, the houses felt different, like they were watching. A new sound emerged, a slow, deliberate scrape, like something dragging itself across the pavement. It came from the cul-de-sac he'd just left. Jake kept his eyes forward, but his flashlight caught another puddle, smaller, in the middle of the street. He tried to step around it, but his reflection stared back, and this time, the faceless figure was closer, its hand reaching toward his shoulder. Jake stumbled, kicking dirt over the puddle, and ran, his breath ragged. He radioed Tom, voice shaking. Tom, something's out here. Shadows, voices, I saw something in a puddle. He didn't mention breaking the rule, not yet. Tom's reply was sharp. What did you do, Carter? Tell me you didn't break a rule. Jake hesitated. I might have answered a voice. It sounded like my mom. Static roared. Then Tom's voice, low and urgent. Get back to the trailer. Now, don't stop. Don't look at anything. The walkie went dead. Jake sprinted, the church blurring past as he raced for the trailer. The scraping sound followed, closer now, joined by a low chuckle that wasn't human. He reached the trailer at 4:50 a.m., fumbling with the keys. Rule 7. Be back by 5, lock the door, don't look back. A loud thud hit the trailer's side, shaking the walls, but Jake didn't turn. He locked the door, heart pounding, and sank to the floor. Flashlight clutched like a lifeline. Tom's truck roared into the lot at 5:15. He stormed inside, his face a mix of anger and fear. You idiot, he hissed, grabbing Jake's arm. You answered it, didn't you? What did you see? Jake's mouth was dry. A figure, no face, in a puddle. It was right behind me. Tom released him, running a hand through his beard. You've been marked, kid. They know you now. He pointed to a small mirror on the trailer wall. Look, but don't say I didn't warn you. Jake hesitated, then glanced at the mirror. His reflection was normal, tired, pale, but on his neck, just below his collar, was a faint mark like a hook scratched into his skin. He touched it, and it burned, sharp and cold. What the hell is this? He demanded. Tom's voice was grim. That's their claim. You broke a rule and now they're watching. You're not done with Hollow Creek, Carter. Not by a long shot. Jake drove away as dawn broke, the mark on his neck throbbing. He didn't know what they were, but one thing was certain. Hollow Creek wasn't just a job anymore. It was a trap, and he was already caught. Jake Carter's hands shook as he gripped the steering wheel, the Missouri hills blurring past in the dusk. The mark on his neck, a faint, hook-shaped scar, had throbbed all day. A constant reminder of his screw-up the night before. Answering that voice, his mom's voice, had been a mistake, and now something in Hollow Creek had claimed him, according to Tom Grayson. Jake hadn't slept, hadn't eaten much either. The motel's lumpy bed offered no rest, just nightmares of a faceless figure reaching for him through a puddle. But quitting wasn't an option. Not with his mom's hospital bills piling up, and not with Tom's warning ringing in his ears. They know you now. Whatever they were, Jake wasn't ready to find out. Not yet. He pulled into the trailer lot at 9 p.m., the familiar weight of Hollow Creek settling over him like a shroud. The town looked the same, crumbling houses, the church's jagged steeple. The distant mine entrance, but it felt different, like the air itself was watching. Jake checked the mark in his truck's rearview mirror, wincing as it pulsed under his fingers. It was darker now. Almost black, like ink seeping into his skin. He shoved the mirror away, grabbed his gear, and headed inside, determined to get answers. Tom was at the desk, sipping coffee from a chipped mug. His eyes heavy with something Jake couldn't place. Guilt, maybe, or fear. You look like hell, Tom said. tossing Jake the walkie-talkie. Ready for round 3? Jake didn't bother with small talk. He dropped his duffel and leaned in, voice low. What's the deal with this place, Tom? That mark, the voices, the shadows. What am I really up against? Tom's face hardened. You broke a rule, Carter. That's on you. Just do your job, follow the rules, and you might make it through the month. A month? Jake snapped. You didn't say anything about a month. And what about that notebook? All those names, Sam, Lucy, people who went missing. Am I next? Tom stood, towering over the desk. You want to know about Hollow Creek? Fine. In 1980, the coal mine blew. 50 men died, fathers, brothers trapped in a collapse. Town never recovered. Folks left, said the place was cursed. Shadows, voices, things that don't belong. That's why we need watchmen. To keep whatever's here contained. He pointed at Jake's neck. That mark means you're in deep. Only way out is to keep going. Jake's stomach twisted, but he pressed on. Contained? You mean those things I saw? What are they? Tom sighed, sinking back into his chair. Locals call them watchers. Nobody knows for sure. Some say they're the miners stuck between worlds. Others say they're older, something the mine woke up. All I know is the rules keep 'em at bay. Break 'em and you're theirs. Jake wanted to call it bullshit, but the mark burned like a brand. And the memory of that faceless figure was too real. He nodded, grabbing his flashlight. All right, but if I'm doing this, I need the truth. All of it. You'll get it when you're ready, Tom said. His voice softer, almost regretful. Patrol starts at 10. Don't mess up again. Jake spent the next hour alone in the trailer, Tom off checking the mine gate. The notebook was still there, hidden under the maps. Jake flipped through it, heart racing. One entry, dated 2018, was longer, written in a shaky hand. Sam Riley, Night 12. The Watchers aren't ghosts. They're hunters. They use the dark, the reflections, to see you. Rule 6 is key, mirrors and water are their eyes. I broke it and now they're in my head. If you're reading this, don't trust Grayson. He knows too much. The page ended abruptly, smudged with what looked like dried blood. Jake's throat tightened. Sam had been marked just like him. At 10 p.m., Jake hit the streets. Flashlight beamed steady, but his nerves shot. The church was quiet tonight, its windows dark voids. He moved quickly to Elm Street, the rules looping in his mind. Don't look into windows. Stick to the route. Avoid standing water. The mark on his neck pulsed with every step like a heartbeat that wasn't his. On Elm, the houses seemed to lean closer, their shadows twisting in the moonlight. A new sound broke the silence, a faint, rhythmic thump like a heartbeat echoing from the ground. It came from the mine's direction, but Jake kept to the route. Eyes on the path. At the cul-de-sac, he spotted another puddle, smaller than the one last night, glinting under a street lamp. He veered wide, but the reflection caught his eye, a flicker of his face. Then the faceless watcher, closer now, its void-like head tilting. Jake froze, Rule 6 screaming in his mind. He stomped the puddle, mud splashing his boots, and the image shattered. But the thump-thump grew louder, vibrating in his chest. He radioed Tom, voice tight. Tom, you hear that? Like a heartbeat. From the mine. Stay away from the mine, Tom snapped. It's not 2 a.m. yet. Keep moving. Jake gritted his teeth but obeyed, looping back toward the church. That's when he heard it, a child's voice, small and scared, coming from a house on Elm. Help me, please. It wasn't his mom this time, but it tugged at him, raw and real. Rule 2, don't go into houses, no matter what you hear. He clenched his flashlight, forcing himself to walk past. But the voice grew desperate. They're coming. A sob followed, then silence. Jake's resolve cracked. He couldn't just ignore a kid, could he? He stepped onto the house's porch. Boards creaking under his boots. The door was ajar, darkness spilling out. Hello, he called, shining his flashlight inside. The beam caught a dusty living room, overturned furniture, cobwebs, and a cracked mirror on the wall. His reflection stared back, but the mark on his neck glowed faintly, pulsing in time with the heartbeat sound. Rule 6. He tore his eyes away, backing out. But the mirror rattled, shaking on its nail. A low growl filled the room, not human, not animal, something wrong. Jake bolted, the porch collapsing behind him with a splintering crash. He sprinted to the street, flashlight flickering but holding. He'd broken Rule 2, and the air felt heavier, like it was pressing him down. The growl followed, echoing from every house on Elm. Joined by a chorus of whispers, "Jake! Jake!" He ran, not stopping until he reached the mine entrance, his chest burning. The gate was locked, but the heartbeat was deafening now, shaking the ground. Jake checked his watch. 1:45 a.m. Rule 5 kept him from getting closer, but he saw something new. A faint red glow pulsing from inside the mine, like a wound in the earth. The whispers grew louder, and shadows moved beyond the gate, tall and faceless. Jake backed away, radioing Tom. "Tom, there's light in the mine." "Shadows. I went into a house. I heard a kid." Tom's voice was ice. "You did what?" "Get to the trailer, Carter. You've got 10 minutes before 5 a.m. Move." Jake ran, the whispers chasing him, the mark on his neck searing. He reached the trailer at 4:52, locking the door as Rule 7 demanded. The growls faded, but a new sound replaced them. A slow, deliberate scratch on the trailer's roof, like claws dragging across metal. Jake gripped his knife, waiting until silence returned. Tom burst in at 5:20, face pale. "2 rules, Carter. You broke 2 rules. You're lucky to be breathing." He grabbed a bottle of whiskey from the desk, taking a long swig. "You saw the Watchers, didn't you? They're not playing anymore." Jake's voice was hoarse. "Sam's journal said they're hunters. Said not to trust you." "What's going on, Tom?" Tom's eyes darkened. "Sam was a fool, and you're heading the same way. Hollow Creek's a cage, Carter. The Watchers want out, and you're the bait keeping M here. Keep breaking rules, and you won't just die, you'll let M loose." Jake drove away at dawn, Sam's journal hidden in his bag, the mark on his neck burning brighter. He was in deeper than he'd ever imagined. And the truth about Hollow Creek was starting to claw its way out. Jake Carter's motel room felt like a prison cell, the walls closing in as he stared at the hook-shaped mark on his neck in the bathroom mirror. It was darker now, almost tattoo-like, spreading tendrils under his skin like roots. Every time he touched it, a jolt of pain shot through him, and last night's horrors. The collapsing porch, the Watcher's growl, the red glow in the mine, played on repeat in his head. Sam Riley's journal, hidden in his duffel, burned a hole in his conscience. Don't trust Grayson. The Watchers are hunters. Jake wanted to run, to ditch Hollow Creek and never look back. But Tom's words haunted him. You're the bait keeping him here. If he quit, what would happen to him, or worse, to his mom, stuck in that Kansas City hospital? He drove back to Hollow Creek at dusk, the Missouri sky bruised purple. The mark throbbed in time with his pulse, like it knew he was coming. The trailer lot was empty when he arrived at 9 p.m. Tom nowhere in sight. Jake's gut churned. After breaking 2 rules, answering his mom's voice, and entering that house, he wasn't sure he'd survive another night. But he needed answers. And Sam's journal hinted Tom was hiding something big. Jake grabbed his gear, flashlight, knife, a pocketful of salt he'd swiped from the motel diner, and slipped Sam's journal into his jacket. If Tom wouldn't talk, maybe the journal would. Inside the trailer, the air was stale, the wooden cross above the desk slightly crooked, like someone had bumped it. Jake checked the desk for clues, finding only the same cluttered mess, maps, receipts, that old miner's photo. But under a coffee mug, he spotted a key, small and rusted, with a tag reading Mine Gate. His heart skipped. Rule 5. Don't enter the mine after 2 a.m. The key felt like a temptation, a way to uncover what Tom wasn't saying. He pocketed it just in case. Tom's truck rolled in at 9:30, gravel crunching under the tires. He stormed into the trailer, eyes bloodshot, a whiskey bottle in hand. "You're still here," he said, almost surprised. "Thought you'd be long gone after last night." Jake crossed his arms. "I want the truth, Tom. Sam's journal says you can't be trusted. Says the Watchers are hunting me. What's your deal in all this?" Tom's face darkened, and he took a swig from the bottle. "Sam was a loose cannon. Got too curious, broke too many rules. You're on the same path, Carter. The Watchers aren't just ghosts. They're predators, tied to the mine. My family's been keeping M locked in Hollow Creek for generations. You're a watchman. A sacrifice to keep M busy, so they don't spread." Jake's blood ran cold. "A sacrifice? You hired me to die." "Not die," Tom snapped. "Survive. Follow the rules and you might last." Break 'em and you're feeding the watchers. Your call. He tossed Jake the walkie-talkie. Patrol starts at 10. Don't make me regret hiring you. Jake's hands clenched, but he held back. Tom was a liar, or worse, a pawn in something bigger. He hit the streets at 10 p.m. Flashlight beam cutting through the fog. The church was silent, its broken windows black as pitch. Elm Street felt tighter tonight, the houses crowding the path like they were closing in. The mark on his neck burned hotter, and Jake swore he heard a faint whisper. His name, too soft to be sure. Rule 3, don't answer calls. He ignored it, focusing on the route. At the cul-de-sac, the air grew heavy like a storm about to break. The heartbeat sound from last night was back, louder, pulsing from the mine. Jake's flashlight flickered and he tapped it hard. Rule 4 flashing in his mind, keep it on. The beam steadied, but a new sound joined the heartbeat, a slow, wet slap like footsteps in mud. It came from behind a house out of sight. Jake's instincts screamed to check, but Rule 2 held him back. He kept moving, eyes on the path. Then it appeared. At the end of Elm, where the dirt path led to the mine, a figure stood under a flickering street lamp. Tall, impossibly thin, with no face, just a blank, gray void where features should be. A watcher. Jake's breath caught, his flashlight beam locking onto it. The thing didn't move, but the mark on his neck screamed, pain shooting down his spine. He remembered Sam's journal. They used the dark to see you. He kept the light steady, Rule for his only shield, and took a step back. The watcher tilted its head, like it was studying him, then glided forward, silent as smoke. Jake's heart pounded. He grabbed the salt from his pocket, tossing a handful toward the thing. It hissed, a sharp, unnatural sound, and recoiled, the edges of its form blurring like static. Jake turned and ran, the mine path blurring past. The slap-slap of wet footsteps chased him, faster now, joined by a low hum that made his teeth ache. He reached the mine gate, fumbling for the key he'd found. Rule 5 loomed, but it wasn't 2 a.m. yet, 1:15, his watch said. The watcher was closing in, its shadow stretching across the gravel. Against every instinct, Jake unlocked the gate, swinging it open. The red glow from last night pulsed brighter, bathing the tunnel in crimson. He tossed more salt behind him, hearing another hiss, and ducked inside, slamming the gate shut. The footsteps stopped, but the hum grew deafening, vibrating the walls. Jake's flashlight caught strange markings on the tunnel, hook shapes like his mark carved into the stone. The air was thick, smelling of sulfur and decay. He radioed Tom, voice shaking. Tom, I'm in the mine. A thing, a watcher, it's after me. I had to get away. Tom's reply was a roar. You, what? Get out, Carter. You're breaking Rule 5. They'll trap you in there. Jake didn't wait for more. He backed out, relocking the gate, and sprinted toward Elm. The watcher was gone, but the mine's glow lingered in his vision, and the mark on his neck felt alive, crawling under his skin. The whispers returned, louder, a chorus of voices. His mom, his old squad leader, even Sam Riley, stay with us, Jake. Rule 3. He covered his ears, running until he hit the church. The trailer was his only thought now. He reached it at 4:48 a.m., Rule 7 his lifeline. As he locked the door, a heavy thud shook the trailer, followed by a scraping sound like nails on wood. The mark burned so fiercely Jake gasped, clutching his neck. He sank against the wall. Flashlight aimed at the door, waiting for dawn. Tom burst in at 5:25, face ashen. You're a damn fool, Carter. The mine? You let them see you. He grabbed Jake's collar, exposing the mark. It was bigger now, the hook shape pulsing with faint red light. They're not just hunting you anymore. They're binding you. Jake shoved him off, rage boiling. Binding? What does that mean? And why do you have a mark too? He'd seen it, a faint hook scar on Tom's wrist, half hidden by his sleeve. Tom froze, then rolled up his sleeve, revealing the mark, faded but unmistakable. I was a watchman 30 years ago. Survived my month, but the mark never leaves. You're part of Hollow Creek now, kid. The watchers don't let go. Jake's vision blurred, fear and anger crashing together. He clutched Sam's journal, the key still in his pocket. Tom was no ally, he was a survivor, maybe a traitor. Whatever the watchers were, they were tied to the mine. And Jake was running out of time to break free. He drove away as the sun rose, the mark a burning promise that Hollow Creek wasn't done with him. The journal held answers, and tonight, he'd find them or die trying. Jake Carter's hands were steady on the wheel, but his mind was a mess. The hook-shaped mark on his neck burned like a live wire, its black tendrils now curling toward his collarbone. Last night's run-in with the Watcher, that faceless thing under the street lamp, had left him rattled, and Tom Grayson's confession only made it worse. You're part of Hollow Creek now. The Watchers don't let go. Jake had barely slept, Sam Riley's journal open on the motel bed. Its warning screaming. Don't trust Grayson. The Watchers are hunters. Tom's own mark, faded but real, proved he wasn't just a manager, he was a survivor, maybe a traitor. Jake needed the truth, and tonight he'd get it, even if it meant breaking every rule in that cursed list. He pulled into Hollow Creek's trailer lot at 9 p.m., the town shrouded in a moonless dark. The air was heavy, thick with the stench of sulfur, like the mine itself was breathing. Jake's duffel held his usual gear, flashlight, knife, salt, but he'd added a small cross from the motel's Gideon Bible, ripped out and tucked in his pocket. The mine gate key, stolen from Tom's desk, weighed heavy in his jeans. Rule 5, don't enter the mine after 2 a.m. loomed, but Jake wasn't waiting for answers anymore. Sam's journal hinted at a gate in the mine, something the Watchers were tied to, and Jake was done being bait. Inside the trailer, Tom sat at the desk, a whiskey bottle half empty beside him. His eyes were sunken like he hadn't slept in days. You're late, he growled, tossing Jake the walkie-talkie. Patrol's at 10. Don't pull another stunt like last night. Jake didn't flinch. He slammed Sam's journal on the desk. Open to the blood-smudged page. Sam said, you're lying. Said the Watchers are tied to a gate in the mine, and you're using me to keep it shut. Start talking, Tom, or I'm done. Tom's hand twitched toward the bottle, then stopped. He leaned back, voice low. You want the truth? Fine. My great-grandfather dug that mine in 1880. Hit a vein so deep it didn't just give coal. It opened something. A gate, a crack to somewhere else. The Watchers came through, not human, not dead, just hungry. They feed on fear, pain, anything they can pull from you. The rules, the watchmen, there to keep the gate sealed, to keep the Watchers from spreading. Jake's throat tightened. And the mark? You said I'm bound. Tom rolled up his sleeve, showing his own hook scar. Means they've tasted you. Every watchman gets marked if they break a rule. Survive a month and you might walk away. Fail? And you're theirs forever. He pulled a small, leather-bound book from the desk, its pages brittle. This is my family's record. Spells out a ritual to reinforce the gate, salt, a cross, and blood from a marked one. Done right, it traps the Watchers for years. Done wrong, it opens the gate wider. Jake's pulse raced. You've done it before. With Sam. Tom's eyes dropped. Sam didn't make it. Got too close to the gate. Don't be him, Carter. Stick to the rules tonight or we're all screwed. Jake grabbed the walkie-talkie, mind spinning. A ritual sounded like a way out, but Tom's half-answers stank of betrayal. He hit the streets at 10 p.m., flashlight beams slicing through the dark. The church was a hulking shadow, the steeple swaying in a wind Jake couldn't feel. Elm Street was worse. Every house seemed alive, windows glinting like eyes. The mark on his neck pulsed, and whispers drifted on the air. Too faint to make out. Rule 3, don't answer calls. Jake kept moving, salt packet gripped in his free hand. At the cul-de-sac, the heartbeat sound returned, louder, shaking the ground. It came from the mine, a quarter-mile away, and Jake felt it in his bones, like a call. He checked his watch, 11:30 p.m. The mine key burned in his pocket. Tom's ritual needed blood. But Jake wasn't waiting for permission. If the gate was real, he'd see it himself. He reached the mine entrance. The rusted gate bathed in a faint red glow from within. The heartbeat was deafening, each thumb tightening the mark on his neck. Jake unlocked the gate, Rule 5 be damned, it wasn't 2 a.m. yet. The tunnel swallowed his flashlight beam, hook carvings glinting on the walls. The air was hot, thick with sulfur, and the glow deepened as he descended following a narrow shaft. Whispers grew louder, a chorus of voices, his mom, Sam, strangers begging him to turn back. Rule 3. He clutched the cross, pushing deeper. At the shaft's end, he found it. A jagged hole in the rock, 10 feet wide, pulsing with red light. The gate. It wasn't just a hole. It moved, like a living wound, and faces pressed against its surface, human but wrong, their eyes black voids. Jake's mark screamed, and he stumbled back, salt spilling from his shaking hand. A watcher emerged from the gate, taller than the one on Elm, its faceless head splitting into a maw of needle-like teeth. It lunged, and Jake threw the salt, the creature shrieking as it dissolved into smoke. But more shapes stirred in the gate, clawing at the edges. Jake radioed Tom, voice breaking. "Tom, I'm at the gate. It's real. Watchers. They're coming through." Tom's reply was frantic. "Get out, Carter. You're too close. The ritual needs time." Static cut him off. Jake backed away, but the gate pulsed, and a clawed hand shot out, grazing his arm. Blood welled, and the mark flared, pain dropping him to his knees. He jammed the cross into the ground, shouting, "Stay back!" The gate dimmed, the hand retreating, but the whispers turned to laughter, cold and sharp. Jake scrambled out, locking the gate behind him, his arm bleeding through his sleeve. He sprinted to Elm, the heartbeat fading but the laughter chasing him. Shadows moved in every window, faceless heads tilting as he passed. Rule 1, don't look. He kept his eyes down, flashlight flickering. At the church, a new horror waited. The doors, boarded shut for decades, were wide open, darkness spilling out. Rule 2. Jake ran past, the laughter now a scream in his head. He hit the trailer at 4:45 a.m., locking the door as Rule 7 demanded. The mark was agony, and his arm throbbed, blood soaking his jacket. Something heavy slammed the trailer's roof, claws scraping louder than before. Jake gripped the knife, whispering a prayer he hadn't said since Afghanistan. Tom burst in at 5:30, face ghost white. "You saw the gate," he said, seeing Jake's bloodied arm. "You're lucky it didn't take you." He grabbed the leather book, flipping to a ritual page. "We do this tomorrow night. Salt, cross, your blood. It's the only way to trap them. But you've pissed them off, Carter. They're coming for you now." Jake's voice was raw. "Why me, Tom? Why not you?" Tom's mark gleamed under the trailer's light. "I did my time. You're the marked one now. Help me or the Watchers get out and Hollow Creek won't be the only place they hunt." Jake drove away at dawn, the journal and cross in his bag. The mine key still his secret. The ritual was a chance to end this, but Tom's lies and the gate's hunger told him trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. Tomorrow he'd face the Watchers, but on his terms. Jake Carter's motel room was a battlefield of crumpled coffee cups and cigarette butts, the air thick with his sleepless panic. The hook-shaped mark on his neck had spread, its black tendrils snaking across his shoulder, burning with every heartbeat. Last night's glimpse of the gate, that pulsing, living wound in the mine, had seared itself into his mind, along with the Watcher's needle-toothed maw. Sam Riley's journal and Tom Grayson's leather-bound book lay open on the bed, their pages a grim roadmap to survival, a ritual using salt, a cross, and Jake's blood to trap the Watchers. But Tom's marked wrist and cagey half-truths screamed betrayal. "You're the marked one now," Tom had said. Jake wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for his mom, for Sam, for every watchman Hollow Creek had chewed up and spat out. He drove back to the town at dusk, the Missouri sky heavy with storm clouds. The mine key, still hidden in his pocket, felt like a loaded gun. Tom's ritual was tonight, and Jake had no choice but to trust him, at least until he could turn the tables. His duffel was heavier this time, flashlight, knife, salt packets, the motel cross, and a Zippo lighter he'd bought at a gas station. If the ritual went south, he'd burn the damn mine down himself. The trailer lot was quiet, Hollow Creek's silhouette sharper in the electric air. Jake stepped inside, finding Tom packing a canvas bag with supplies, salt, candles, a rusted knife. The leather book was open on the desk, its ritual page marked with a crude sketch of the gate. Tom looked up, his face etched with exhaustion. "You ready, Carter? No screwing around tonight. We do this right or the Watchers break free." Jake's jaw tightened. "Tell me the ritual again. Every step. And no lies." Tom sighed, spreading the book's page. "We go to the gate before 2 a.m., circle it with salt, plant the cross in the center, and cut your hand. Marked blood seals the deal. Say the words from the book, and the gate locks for another decade. My great-grandfather did it. I did it. Now it's your turn." He met Jake's eyes. "You're marked deeper than I ever was. Your blood's stronger." Jake's mark flared, pain shooting through him. "And if it doesn't work?" Tom's voice was flat. "Then we're both dead and the Watchers hunt beyond Hollow Creek." Jake didn't trust him, but the plan was all he had. At 10 p.m. they headed out, Tom carrying the ritual bag, Jake with his flashlight and knife. The church loomed as they passed, its open doors from last night now shut, like the town itself was holding its breath. Elm Street was a tunnel of shadows, the houses silent but alive, their windows glinting. The heartbeat sound pulsed from the mine, louder than ever, shaking Jake's bones. Whispers drifted, his mom, Sam, a child begging him to stop. Rule 3, don't answer calls. Jake gripped the cross in his pocket, focusing on the path. At the mine entrance, the gate was already open, its padlock dangling. Jake shot Tom a look. You do this. Tom shook his head, eyes wide. Wasn't me. They know we're coming. The red glow from the tunnel was brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. Jake's mark burned, and he drew his knife, stepping inside. Tom followed, clutching the ritual bag. The tunnel was a descent into hell. Hook carvings covered the walls, glowing faintly, and the air was thick with sulfur and rot. The gate was deeper than Jake remembered, its red light now a blinding crimson. Faces pressed against its surface, dozens, hundreds, their mouths moving in silent screams. Jake's mark screamed too, and he stumbled, catching himself on the wall. Tom grabbed his arm. Stay focused. We're close. They reached the gate, its edges writhing like liquid. Tom poured a salt circle around it, hands shaking, while Jake planted the cross in the center, its wood sinking into the stone like it belonged there. Tom handed Jake the rusted knife. Your blood now. Cut deep. Jake hesitated, Sam's journal flashing in his mind, don't trust Grayson. The gate pulsed and a watcher emerged, its faceless form splitting into that toothed maw. Jake threw salt, driving it back. But more shapes stirred in the gate. Do it, Carter. Tom shouted, lighting candles around the circle. Jake sliced his palm, blood dripping onto the cross. He read the book's words, voice trembling. By salt and blood, by faith and will, bind the dark and seal the gate. The gate dimmed, the faces fading, but Tom's face twisted. He grabbed Jake's bleeding hand, forcing it against the gate. I'm sorry, kid, he whispered. Your blood's not just for sealing, it's for opening. They need a marked one inside. Jake's vision blurred as the gate flared, pulling at him. Tom's betrayal hit like a punch. You son of a, Jake yanked free, tackling Tom to the ground. The salt circle broke, candles toppling, and the gate roared, a clawed hand bursting through. Jake stabbed Tom's arm with the knife, blood spraying, and shoved him back. You're the sacrifice, not me, he roared, kicking Tom toward the gate. Tom screamed as the hand grabbed him, dragging him into the red light. The gate pulsed, swallowing him whole, and the faces inside laughed, their voices a deafening chorus. Jake scrambled back, grabbing the cross and salt bag. He poured a new circle, his blood-soaked hand shaking, and shouted the ritual words again. The gate flickered, dimming, but didn't close. Claws scraped at the edges, and the heartbeat sound became a shriek. Jake ran, the tunnel collapsing behind him, rocks falling, dust choking the air. He reached the gate, slamming it shut and locking it with the key. The red glow faded, but the shrieks followed, echoing in his head. He sprinted to the trailer, hitting it at 4:50 a.m., Rule 7 his only anchor. As he locked the door, the mine's heartbeat stopped, replaced by a single heavy thud outside the trailer, like a body hitting the ground. Jake didn't look, his hand trembling on the knife. Dawn broke and no Tom. The trailer was silent. The leather book gone, only the rusted knife left on the desk. Jake's mark was still there, pulsing faintly, but the pain had dulled like the watchers were waiting. He checked his hand. The cut was deep, but the blood had stopped, leaving a faint hook scar. Tom's betrayal had cost him everything, but Jake had survived. For now, he drove away, Sam's journal in his bag, the mine key a heavy reminder. The ritual had failed, or worse, it had changed something. The watchers weren't gone, they were angry, and Jake was still marked. He needed a new plan, something to end this for good, because Hollow Creek wasn't letting him go, and neither were the things inside that gate. Jake Carter's motel room in Kansas City smelled of stale coffee and fear. He hadn't slept in 2 days, not since Tom Grayson's betrayal in the mine, where the watchers had dragged him screaming into that pulsing red gate. The hook-shaped mark on Jake's neck was a constant ache, its black tendrils now curling down his chest, like the watchers were carving their claim deeper. Sam Riley's journal lay open on the bed, its pages a lifeline to understanding Hollow Creek's curse. Tom's ritual had failed, or worse. It had fed the watchers, and Jake's blood was the key. He wasn't just marked anymore, he was hunted, and the thought of his mom, alone in a hospital bed, kept him from running. He'd driven straight from Hollow Creek, the mine key and motel cross tucked in his duffel. The trailer's rusted knife now a grim reminder of Tom's lies. The mark throbbed when he tried to sleep. And last night, he'd woken to a faint tap-tap on the motel window, though the parking lot was empty. Jake wasn't safe, not here, not anywhere. Sam's journal hinted at a way to end the Watchers, destroy the gate, not seal it, but the details were vague, mentioning a final binding with fire and a marked one's sacrifice. Jake wasn't ready to die, but he couldn't let the Watchers spread. He spent the day digging for answers. A quick Google search on Hollow Creek turned up nothing, no records, no maps. Like the town had been erased. But a library in Kansas City had old newspaper archives, and Jake found a 1980 article about the mine explosion. 50 men dead, families gone. Rumors of shadows driving survivors away. One name stood out. Father Daniel Boone, a local priest who tried to cleanse the mine before vanishing. Jake tracked down the church Boone had served, a small Catholic parish 30 miles away, and called the current priest, Father Michael. "I need to know about Hollow Creek," Jake said, voice rough. "About the mine, the Watchers." Father Michael hesitated, then agreed to meet. At dusk, Jake drove to the church, a brick building with stained glass windows glowing in the twilight. The priest was older, with kind eyes but a nervous edge. "Hollow Creek's a dark place," Michael said, leading Jake to a cluttered office. Father Boone left notes about it. Said the mine opened a gate to something ancient, not of God. He tried to close it with a ritual, salt, fire, holy relics, but it cost him his life. Michael handed Jake a yellowed envelope, Boone's handwriting faint, to destroy the gate. Burn it with consecrated fire and the marked one's blood. The Watchers will fight to keep it open. Be prepared to pay the price. Inside was a vial of holy oil and a silver cross etched with Latin. Jake's mark burned as he touched them, but he pocketed both. "This fire," Jake asked, "it'll end them?" "Maybe," Michael said. But Boone warned the Watchers don't die easy. "They'll come for you, marked or not." He paused, eyeing Jake's neck. "You've seen them, haven't you?" Jake nodded, throat tight. "They're already here." Back at the motel, Jake prepared. He filled a gas can from a station, packed the holy oil, cross, and Sam's journal, and cleaned his knife. The mark was spreading faster, pain flaring with every move. He called his mom's hospital, leaving a voicemail. "I'm fixing this, Mom. I'll be home soon." But the words felt hollow. Hollow Creek was calling him back, and he knew it. He drove to the town at 9 p.m., the sky black with storm clouds. The trailer lot was deserted, Tom's truck gone. The "Welcome to Hollow Creek" sign toppled in the dirt. Jake's flashlight caught a new detail, claw marks on the trailer door, deep and jagged. His mark pulsed, and a faint whisper drifted from the church. "Jake, Rule 3, don't answer calls." He ignored it. Heading inside. The trailer was a wreck. Desk overturned. Maps shredded. The wooden cross snapped in half. Jake found a note scrawled on the wall in red marker. "You can't run, Carter." His blood ran cold. Was it Tom, or something worse? He grabbed the mine key and headed out, the gas can heavy in his hand. The church was silent, but Elm Street was alive with shadows. Figures flickering in the windows. Rule 1, don't look. Jake kept his eyes down, the mark burning like a brand. At the mine entrance, the gate hung open, the red glow brighter than ever. The heartbeat sound was a roar, shaking the ground. Jake poured a line of salt across the entrance, clutching the silver cross. The whispers grew, his mom, Sam, now Tom, "Join us, Jake." Rule 3. He stepped inside, the tunnel's hook carvings glowing like embers. The air was suffocating, and the mark felt like it was tearing him apart. Halfway to the gate, a watcher appeared, not one, but 3, their faceless forms towering, maws splitting open. Jake threw salt, their hisses echoing, but they didn't retreat, gliding closer. He doused the holy oil on the ground, lighting it with the Zippo. Flames roared, driving the Watchers back, their screams like metal on glass. Jake ran, the gate's red light blinding now. Faces writhed inside, and one looked like Tom, his eyes black voids, mouth frozen in a scream. Jake reached the gate, pouring gas around it. He cut his palm with the knife, blood mixing with the holy oil, and planted the silver cross in the center. "End this," he muttered, lighting the Zippo. But a clawed hand shot from the gate, grabbing his wrist. The mark exploded with pain. And Jake's vision darkened, the faces in the gate laughing. You're ours? They hissed, pulling him closer. Jake yanked free, tossing the lighter. Flames erupted, the gate shrieking as fire consumed it. The watchers lunged, claws raking his back, but the salt line held barely. Jake stumbled out, the tunnel shaking, rocks falling. He locked the gate, the flames still burning behind it, and sprinted to the trailer, hitting it at 4:55 a.m. Rule 7. Lock the door, don't look back. A deafening roar shook the ground, and claws scraped the trailer's walls, louder, closer. Jake gripped the knife, blood dripping from his hand, waiting for dawn. Daylight came, the scraping gone. The trailer was intact, but the mark on Jake's chest was darker, the pain sharper. He drove to Kansas City, the gas can empty, the silver cross still warm in his pocket. The gate had burned, but the watcher's laughter echoed in his head, and Sam's journal warned of a price. Jake wasn't free, maybe he never would be. He needed to know if the fire had worked, or if Hollow Creek was just biding its time, waiting to pull him back. Jake Carter's Kansas City apartment felt like a trap, every shadow a threat waiting to strike. The hook-shaped mark on his chest was a spiderweb of black now, its tendrils wrapping around his ribs, burning with a life of its own. 3 days had passed since he'd set fire to the gate in Hollow Creek's mine, hoping to destroy the watchers. But the laughter in his head, cold, sharp, and not human, told him he'd failed. Sam Riley's journal, Father Boone's holy oil, and the silver cross sat on his coffee table, mocking his attempt to escape. The watchers weren't just in Hollow Creek anymore. They were here in the city, and Jake was running out of places to hide. He hadn't left the apartment much, too afraid of what he might see in a puddle or a window. The mark flared whenever he passed a mirror, and last night he'd woken to a faint scratch on his door, like claws testing the lock. His mom's hospital was a 30-minute drive, but Jake hadn't visited, terrified the watchers would follow. He called her nurse, hearing her frail voice through the phone. "Jake, come see me soon." The guilt was a knife in his gut, but the thought of those faceless things near her was worse. Jake spent the day piecing together a plan. Sam's journal had one unreadable page, smudged with blood. But Jake made out fragments. Fire weakens the gate, marked one's life to close it. No other way. Father Boone's notes were clearer, consecrated fire, holy relics. And the marked one's sacrifice, blood or life, can end the watchers. Jake wasn't ready to die, but sealing the gate for good was his only shot at freedom. He needed more answers, weapons. Something to tip the scales. Father Michael, the priest who'd given him Boone's envelope, was his last hope. At noon, Jake drove to the church, the silver cross heavy in his pocket. Kansas City streets were alive with traffic, but every reflective surface, car windows, shop fronts, made his mark pulse. At a stoplight, he glanced at his truck's side mirror and froze. His reflection was wrong, his eyes black voids, his mouth twisted into a grin. The mark burned, and a whisper hissed, "You can't run." Jake slammed the mirror down, heart pounding, and floored the gas. Father Michael met him in the church's office, his face grim. "You look worse than last time," he said, noticing Jake's trembling hands. "They're following you, aren't they?" Jake nodded, pulling up his shirt to show the mark. "It's spreading. I burned the gate, but they're still here." Boone's notes said, "A sacrifice, my life. Is there another way?" Michael sighed, pulling a lockbox from a shelf. Boone believed the watchers are ancient, tied to the land before the mine. Fire weakens them, but closing the gate needs more than blood, it needs intent. A marked one's will to bind them. He opened the box, revealing a small iron dagger, its blade etched with crosses. Boone used this for his ritual. It's consecrated, meant to channel the sacrifice. Blood might be enough, but you'd have to face them at the gate. Jake took the dagger, its weight cold and final. "And if I don't?" Michael's eyes darkened. "They'll hunt you, your family, anyone close. The mark ties you to them. Hollow Creek's just their cage, they want out." Jake left with the dagger, holy oil, and a fresh vial of holy water from Michael. Back at the apartment, he packed his duffel, journal, cross, dagger, oil, water, the mine key, and his Zippo. The gas can was still in his truck, half full. He wrote a letter to his mom, sealing it with shaking hands. "If I don't come back, I love you. I'm sorry." He couldn't face her, not with the watchers so close. That night, the apartment grew colder, the mark searing like a brand. Jake was dozing on the couch when a loud crack jolted him awake. A window in the kitchen, now spiderwebbed with fractures, Shadows moved outside, tall and faceless, their maws glinting in the streetlight. The mark pulsed and whispers filled the room. Jake, come back. Rule 3, don't answer calls. He grabbed the holy water, splashing it on the window. The shadows hissed, retreating, but the glass groaned, ready to shatter. Jake didn't wait. He grabbed his duffel and bolted to the truck, peeling out as the apartment's lights flickered behind him. The mark guided him, a burning compass pulling him back to Hollow Creek. He drove through the night, Missouri's hills blurring past, the whispers growing louder, now a chorus of screams. 3 a.m. He reached the trailer lot, the town darker than ever, like it had swallowed the stars. The trailer was a ruin, walls clawed, desks smashed, the air thick with sulfur. Jake's flashlight caught a new message on the wall, written in something black and wet, "You open the way." His stomach dropped. The gate's fire hadn't stopped the watchers, it had weakened their cage. He checked Sam's journal, finding a final, hidden note tucked in the binding. If the gate burns, they'll hunt beyond the mine. Only the marked ones will, given freely, can end them. Jake's mark burned, confirming the truth. He'd made it worse. He headed to the mine, the gas can in one hand, dagger in the other. The church was a husk, its steeple collapsed. And Elm Street's houses leaned inward, windows shattered. The heartbeat sound was gone, replaced by a low, guttural hum that shook Jake's teeth. At the mine entrance, the gate was gone. The tunnel wide open, red light pulsing like a dying star. Jake poured holy water across the entrance, the ground steaming, and stepped inside. The tunnel was alive. Hook carvings writhing on the walls, the air hot and heavy. Watchers lined the path, dozens, their faceless heads tilting, maws snapping. Jake threw holy water, their screams echoing, and lit the Zippo, holding it like a shield. The gate was closer now, its red light a vortex of faces. Tom, Sam, strangers, all screaming. A watcher lunged, claws grazing Jake's arm. But he stabbed with the dagger, the blade sinking into its form. It dissolved, shrieking, but more came, their whispers now a roar, "Give yourself." Jake reached the gate, pouring gas and holy oil around it. He cut his hand with the dagger, blood dripping onto the silver cross, and shouted, "Take me, but stay here." The gate flared, pulling at him, but he held firm, willing it to close. The watchers surged, claws tearing his jacket, but the fire caught, flames roaring. The gate dimmed, faces fading, and Jake stumbled back, the tunnel shaking. He escaped as rocks fell, sealing the entrance. Dawn broke as he reached the trailer lot, the hum gone, the mark still burning but quieter. Jake drove to Kansas City, the dagger and journal beside him. The watchers were silent, but the mark told him they weren't gone, just waiting. He'd faced the gate, but Hollow Creek's curse wasn't over, and neither was his fight. Jake Carter stood in his Kansas City apartment, staring at the hook-shaped mark that had consumed half his chest, its black tendrils pulsing like a second heartbeat. The watcher's pursuit hadn't stopped since he'd burned the gate in Hollow Creek's mine. Windows cracking in the night, whispers in his head, shadows in every reflection. Sam Riley's journal and Father Boone's dagger lay on the table, their warnings clear, the marked one's life closes the gate. Jake had fought to avoid that fate. But the mark's pain and his mom's frail voice on the hospital phone, "Come home, Jake," told him time was up. Hollow Creek was calling, and this time he'd end the curse or die trying. He spent the day preparing. Father Michael had blessed a new vial of holy oil and given Jake a rosary, its beads worn smooth. The iron dagger, etched with crosses, was sharp and heavy. A tool for blood or worse. Jake packed his duffel, oil, rosary, dagger, Sam's journal, the silver cross, a full gas can, and his Zippo. He visited his mom, standing outside her hospital room, too afraid to go in. Her letter was in his pocket. "I'm sorry. If he didn't come back, she'd know why." At dusk, he drove to Hollow Creek, the Missouri hills silent, the mark burning like a beacon. The town was a corpse. The trailer lot was rubble, the church a pile of ash, Elm Street's houses collapsed into splintered bones. The mine entrance gaped wide, its red glow a pulsing wound in the earth. No heartbeat sound, no whispers, just a suffocating silence that screamed trap. Jake's mark flared, pain dropping him to one knee. He poured a salt line across the entrance, clutching the rosary, and stepped inside, the tunnel swallowing his flashlight beam. The air was thick with sulfur, hook carvings on the walls glowing like molten iron. Jake's footsteps echoed, but something else moved, soft, wet slaps like bare feet on stone. Watchers. Dozens lined the tunnel, their faceless heads tilting, maws glinting with needle teeth. Jake splashed holy oil, lighting it with the Zippo. Flames roared, their hisses shaking the walls, but they didn't retreat. Circling closer, the mark burned, and a voice, not his mom, not Sam, but his own, whispered, "You belong here." Rule 3, don't answer calls. Jake gripped the dagger, pushing deeper. The gate was a nightmare, twice as wide as before, its red vortex swirling with faces. Tom Grayson, Sam, Father Boone, hundreds more, their mouths screaming without sound. The watchers surged, claws raking Jake's arm, blood soaking his jacket. He threw holy water, their screams like shattering glass, and poured gas around the gate, hands shaking. The mark was agony, pulling him toward the vortex, but he planted the silver cross in the center, its metal sinking into the stone. Jake cut his palm with the dagger, blood dripping onto the cross, and shouted Boone's words. "By fire and faith, by blood and will, bind the dark forever." The gate flared, faces twisting, but the watchers didn't stop. A clawed hand grabbed his wrist, another his throat, their void faces inches away. Jake's vision darkened, the mark searing his soul. He saw his mom, smiling in a memory, and his resolve hardened. "Not yet," he growled, yanking free and tossing the Zippo. The gas ignited, flames swallowing the gate. The watchers shrieked, their forms melting into the fire, but the vortex fought back, pulling at Jake like a riptide. He stabbed the dagger into the ground, anchoring himself, and poured the holy oil, its flames white-hot. The faces in the gate screamed, Tom's among them. "You can't win!" Jake's mark exploded with pain, and he felt his life slipping, the sacrifice Boone warned of. But he held firm, willing the gate to close, his blood mixing with the fire. The tunnel shook, rocks falling, the vortex shrinking. The watchers lunged, claws tearing his back, but the flames held, burning them to ash. Jake stumbled, blood pooling, and shouted the final words, "Stay gone." The gate collapsed into a black scar, the red light gone, the faces silent. The tunnel went still, the mark's pain fading to a dull ache. Jake crawled out, the mine collapsing behind him, sealing the entrance in rubble. Dawn broke as he reached the surface, the town unrecognizable, houses dust, the church a crater. His mark was still there, faint now, a scar instead of a wound. He drove to Kansas City, the dagger and rosary beside him, Sam's journal burned in the fire. The watchers were gone, or so he hoped, but the mark whispered doubt. Back in the city, Jake visited his mom, her smile weak but real. He didn't tell her about Hollow Creek, only held her hand, the mark hidden under his shirt. Life crept back, work, bills, routine. But the mark never faded, a reminder of the price he'd paid. One night, at a diner, he saw a man with a faint hook scar on his wrist, eyes haunted. Jake's heart sank. The watchers were quiet, but their cage wasn't Hollow Creek anymore, it was him. Weeks later, a letter arrived, no return address. Inside was a single rule written in red. Rule 8, don't abandon the gate. Jake burned it. But the mark pulsed, and shadows moved in his peripheral vision, faceless and waiting. He kept the dagger close, the rosary in his pocket, knowing the watchers weren't dead, just patient. Hollow Creek was gone, but Jake was the gate now, and the curse was his to carry forever.